So for today's session, we have three speakers to start the today's session, and we have Mr. Sanjeev Patra, who is working in Aveva, Hyderabad as a principal tech. He is going to start the session, today's session, as a keynote speaker, and next speaker will be Miss Nirupama Biswal. She is working as a associate director in Novartis, Hyderabad. And our third keynote speaker is Miss Shweta Padmapati, and she completed her MBA and established her new integral education center in Odisha. And with this, I will welcome Mr. Sanjeev Patra to start today's discussion and session.
Thank you very much, Devasis, for your nice introduction. Yes. As respected professors and assistant professors and the teaching community at CMR Technical Campus, Hyderabad, Namaste. I warmly welcome you all for the first session of Growing Integrally from Eager to Forge Ahead Trust. Thank you very much for your interest to be part of these unique sessions starting today till the 29th of May. Each day we'll have 1 hour session. So before we proceed our session, let us start with a 2-minute meditation music. Now I would like to give a brief overview about our trust, Eager to Forge Ahead, and its mission and objective. We are inspired by the Mother and Sri Aurobindo. We are a non-profit spiritual organization. We are a group of spiritual seekers from diverse fields of life. And we have a common aspiration and inspiration. We have joined together to form from a trust. We are from different background, from IT industries, from teaching community, from engineers, doctors, dedicated spiritual seekers, and students, and many more. Our aim is to collectively help in the growth and transformation of our consciousness and our every human being. We would like to help in spreading the message of universal love and unity. We like to enlighten the masses about the essence of core Indian spiritual values, which is forgotten long back by Indians. We would like to spread the message of Sri Aurobindo's integral education in schools and colleges and make it a living example of integral way of teaching. Why Sri Aurobindo's integral education is different from rest of the practices, because it is called as the education of the fourth dimension. It is called the education of the spirit. That is why we would like to implement this education in every schools and colleges. In this process, we help in a transformation of every field of activity, human activity, be it agriculture, education, business, all politics, anything. It means we try to help them find the higher truth or purpose of existence. Also, we would like to help in creating a communities of similar aspirant group, spiritually awakened group across India and also around the world. That is our bigger aim. Everyone in this world is unique, and we would like to help in discovering the unique me in this universe. We also help in discovering the unique possibilities in human being. What we exactly do in our trust as part of our trust activity. We conduct satsangs or study circles in villages. Study circles means it is a collective reading of spiritual literature of Sri Aurobindo and Mother from families level and from societies to villages, towns across. And we believe these literatures give tremendous insight to lead a correct way of living. This is the best way to spread the message of spirituality among the masses. We not only read, but try to practically live our lives with those principles. We conduct satsangs these days both online and offline. Nowadays, after the COVID-19, online satsang have spread rapidly across states. We also conduct workshops on integral yoga, where we share the best practices of integral philosophy. We spread it among the villagers and also the urban people. We also take integral education in the villages, village schools and towns. We cater to different villages and we make some project basis also approach towards spreading integral education. We educate the villagers about, particularly the farmers, about inculcating spirituality in agriculture field in their day-to-day life. Also, we create centers of spiritual community where people who believe in higher truth, who believe in this common aspiration, they join together and form a group. For example, we have created one center in Nagulapalli village in Sadnagar. That is a pilot project, and we have started there in Hyderabad. Where are we located? We are located across cities from Hyderabad, Vizag, Calcutta, Bhubaneswar, Chennai, Mumbai, Delhi, many places we have started our centers. Also, we have started our activities in remote areas of Odisha, particularly Koraput, Navarampur, in Madhya Pradesh, Rewa, in Bihar, it is Dehrian, Shon, in Uttarakhand, and many other places we are expanding. We believe our only support is the divine grace. Because Sri Aurobindo says all wealth belongs to the divine, and those who hold it are trustees and not possessors. So we do not have to quit our job to do this. We lead a normal life as you all. We don't have to go to jungles or mountains to experience God. We just are associated with our group members. They contribute from their income for this mission. We also take offerings from people who sincerely believe in this higher cause. And our only salary or compensation is not any monetary term. It is the unlimited inner joy and the delight in our work. These are our contact points across cities: Hyderabad, Vizag, Bhubaneswar, Calcutta, Bangalore, Pune. We would give you the session. We would give you the end in the end all these detailed contact details. With this, the overview, the brief presentation about our trust is over. In this era, we can claim that our villages are much developed. We can claim that our roads are developed, our towns, cities across the world are much developed than ever before. And science and technology, they have taken us to different dimension altogether. We are even thinking of settling in Mars, living the poor Earth. But many problems of existence are still persisting instead of becoming extinct. We feel and experience the same level of, maybe more bigger level of insecurity, restlessness, disharmony, chaos, discord, stress, depression, violence, war, whatnot. The list is endless. It is happening among the communities, among the countries at large. And all problems and crises are appearing in different forms and more violent forms, more bigger sizes and proportion. We have achieved tremendous progress at material level, but at the same time, we as humans failed miserably to grow really as human beings at all. Because this crisis, this was also faced by the Adimanav in different level. We are also facing this similar crisis of existence today, much more powerful, with so much techno gizmos at our place, at our disposal. We have forgot to grow consciously. The reason is we have forgot to grow in the right way. We have forgot to evolve as a human being. I would like to tell you one story about one guru and his disciples now. One day, one guru asked two of his disciples to observe one particular mango tree, and a group of children were throwing stones at that tree, and they are getting mangoes by throwing stones repeatedly. And guru asked them to observe them and come back. And both the disciple went there and saw for a few minutes and came back. And guru asked them after returning, what did you observe? Can you tell me what did you learn from this situation? One of them said, Guruji, we have to be like those kids. They are throwing stones. They are attacking a giant tree to get some fruits and get the enjoyment. We also need to be strong and robust enough to get anything from this big dirty world. Abuse, we have to insult, attack, crush others and get away with the fruits of enjoyment. The whole world will silently accept those who have power and authority. They can play every tricks of the trade. So in this world, who have the power can survive this dirty world of dishonesty and politics. And the guru listened to him and asked the other disciple, what did you learn? He said, Guruji, I am very much inspired by the sacrifice of the mango tree. We need to be wide and broad-minded and kind-hearted like that motherly mango tree who was offering her fruits happily and joyfully, giving her service for the sake of humanity with love and oneness, without any complaint or criticism, despite getting stones. We should be ready to face all situations, all abuses from all sides, criticism, complaint, attacks, anything, but we should never lose our inner character of serving others, serving humanity. So, ladies and gentlemen, one incident and two types of thoughts, two types of consciousness, which is more beautiful and progressive for the sake of humanity. Are we living the life of that second disciple and discovering that newness and wideness in every crisis, in every situation? Are you trying to evolve in our consciousness in every crisis or calamity? Today, I think humanity is at a crossroad. We need to grow in an integral manner, no half-baked manner. We have to grow in a comprehensive manner. There should be no second option. There should not be any half-baked approach. So are you all geared to know the secrets of growing integrally? Are you all ready to learn that new way of living this life? We are not going to tell any rocket science here in the next few sessions, because spirituality is ingrained in our consciousness. Being an Indian, it is all about our way of living, our living consciously and in the right way. So this is all about our session. Before I request the first presenter to take the control of the session, let us all become students for the next few sessions and try to understand what this is all about. What is growing integrally? Let us keep aside our work, both personal and professional, and be present here completely for the sessions. And we request you to please park your questions till the end of the session each day. Our presenter will answer each of your questions at the end of the session. I request you all to switch off your mobiles or keep it in silent mode. We also request you to mute the Zoom audio when the session is on. With this, I hand over the stage to the next speaker, Nirupama.
Thanks, Sanjeev. Dear friends, my pranam to the divinity within all of you. So I was just wondering, can we all think of the best gift in today's times? What could have been the best gift, be it our children, our parents, our family? What can be the best gift that we can give them? So I should say the best gift that we can give is that of our presence and time. And I would like to thank all of you for that gift that you are giving us today and for the next few sessions. I'm grateful to all of you, and thanks. So let us just get started in the interest of time. And why do you think we all have gathered here? What is this agenda and how does it fit into our faculty development program? It must be looking a bit strange. The words are a bit new to all of us, and it may not be in complete sync with our faculty development program that has been run earlier also. So having spoken that, how do you think we can develop in our profession? It has been proved that the so-called top performers in exams are successful only in clerical jobs, that is following orders and executing as set by the British. The so-called mediocres have become great leaders and entrepreneurs. So what is it that is needed for us to be successful? The first and foremost trend that is emerging of late is the age of IQ is past now. So all of you, all of us who must have seen some time back, there was a craze for IQ, higher IQ, but that age is now gone. Now, and some time back, we were also hearing a lot of hype and hoopla around the EQ, that is the emotional quotient. That also has become a setting sun now. So what next? I see that the future noons belong to SQ. What is this SQ now? SQ stands for spiritual quotient. I hope all of us understand the meaning of spirit. So it means self, and the knowledge related to self and growing from the self-awareness is termed as SQ. This self comprises of different elements: body, heart, mind, soul, etc. And this has become the tool. It has to be chiseled, just like an uncut diamond. It has to be polished to shine forth. It's very important to understand our own self in all its totality and help it to be polished to shine like a diamond. This is the background of our session and why it is needed here. Since spirit is that center based out of which all other functions radiate forth like rays from the sun. Once we get some glimpses into that central real self, we need to understand why we are here, the true purpose of our life and its meaning, which is termed in day-to-day activities like the aim of life. We also need to understand that our birth in this great and beautiful land, of Bharat, is not random nor arbitrary. That some unseen hand has gifted us with this great fortune where we can breathe in the spirit or soul science, as was already spoken by Sanjeev. And then finally, we come to the point of how well we are doing our assigned task. How can we perform better? How can we exceed and excel ourselves? So this is going to be the gist of the entire session that would be unfolding before us in the next few upcoming sessions. So let us begin with the purpose or the aim of our life, why we are here. If you see, let me park aside this first slide. Let me just go to the couple of next slide and I'll come back to this again. So this is one slide which shows a herd of sheep who are going in search of greener pasture. And this is another scene where we see another species on this earth. They are also going in search of whatever, job, food, whatever. So what is the difference between this slide and this slide? It looks very similar, right? However, do we understand our race? Do we understand that we are the culmination of uh, the evolution? We are the culmination of this life that is present only on earth, which is very unique in the entire universe. Despite this, we still continue our daily acts in a very mechanical way, just like the animals do. They wake up, they go in search of food, they look for shelter, they try to defend themselves, they try to propagate their race, and that is what we also do. So there remains no difference between the other species inhabiting this beautiful green earth and us. So this is a poem maybe you can go through whenever you get time. It's known as the Psalm of Life. It was written by H.W. Longfellow, where he says that the soul is dead that slumbers, and be not like a dumb driven cattle, be a hero in the strife. So these words have a deeper meaning that we need to ponder upon and give some time to and think how we are living now currently. So having said that, let us see this. So this is a ship which doesn't have a rudder. It seems to be lost in the sea, and there's a man in the desert who has lost his way. So don't you think that our life also becomes miserable like this if we don't have any aim to follow, just a mechanical way of living, just like any other species? So it's very similar to other species, the way they are living their life now and the way we are living, we are also leading our lives now. So this is what an aimless life is, always a miserable life. Therefore, we should have an aim in life. And now coming to our aim, what should be our aim? All of us, when we were young, um, of course, our parents had the aim that we should be able to walk, then run, and then we started, when we had that kind of reasoning, we started to develop that ambition or that aim of being a topper in the class, and then getting into a good college, and then getting a good job, etc., etc. So that aim kept on changing. What is exactly our aim? So let us not forget that on the quality of your aim will depend the quality of your life. So in the next slide, you see that your aim should be high and wide, generous and disinterested. To understand this, let us go back to the first slide. You see that Professor V. Ramachandran, he says, this is a famous quote from a very famous neurosurgeon who says that any ape can reach for a banana, but only humans can reach for the stars. So it has a deeper significance. This can be really symbolic as well. Only the apes, the monkeys, they can reach for the bananas. That can be their aim. However, human beings have the capacity to reach for the stars. And now to understand this, how high and wide, generous and disinterested our aim can be, I will just conclude the session with two examples just to understand this aim. So how high can our aim be? The first example is, so you see the picture of this cute little girl. Her name is Mira Alfassa. She was born in Paris in the late 19th century. And since her childhood, since the age of 4, she started becoming aware of some kind of purpose in her life, that she is not born for for something ordinary which is done by everyone else around her. She is born to achieve something great, to attain something which has yet not been attained by anyone in the mankind. So she also had vision that the poor, the people who are suffering, all of them, they are coming and getting sheltered under her, under her refuge. They are taking refuge in her. So these kind of visions she started having at a very early age. I'll just read this quote from her. I started contemplating or doing my yoga from the age of 4. Gradually, I began to feel I shall have to do some tremendously great work that nobody yet knows. So, this is when she was 4 years old. Now, coming to the next slide, you see this pretty little girl has grown up to be one of the most beautiful ladies in the whole universe. And now she says, Lord, thou hast willed, and I execute. A new light breaks upon the earth. A new world is born. The things that were promised are fulfilled. So, what does it mean? It means that she has become a willing servitor of the divine. What the divine wants of her, she has become that. And she has no other ambition or aim of her own, but just to be an instrument of the divine. So I hope some of us may be able to recognize this picture on the slide. This golden globe is known as the Matri Mandir in Auroville, that is a few kilometers from Pondicherry. And this is very symbolic. This symbolizes human unity, that which was envisioned in our Vedas, which is known as Vasudeva Kutumbakam. This entire life is one family. So this is what it symbolizes, the divine family. And the meaning of Auroville is the city of dawn. And this lady at the age of 93, sitting around 10 kilometers in a small room, she is able to translate this into action, something of this order that has been translated into action, that has been realized. And here you see the beauty of this idea or this vision. So this is the culmination of one of her aims. Now coming to the next example, I hope all of us being Indians, we would be pretty much accustomed with this name, uh, Aurobindo Ghosh, whom the British once dreaded, born in Bengal, uh, educated in Cambridge, London, and then coming back to India, his goal, his aim being the freedom of India, since he feels, he has realized that India is destined to be the spiritual guru of the world. That is why India needs to be free. He started his life having an aim to free his motherland and ended up having the aim of freeing mankind. So that vast became his aim, and he also realized that as well. Now I would, with these two examples on how a aim can be and how your aim can uh, drive you and your life, I would conclude, and I would ask Shweta Padma to take up from now on, and she'll continue. Thank you, all of you. Namaskar.
Om Shri Mata Sharanam Mama, Shri Aravinda Sharanam Mama. My pranam to the divine presence in all. It gives me immense pleasure to see such beautiful souls aspiring to participate in such event. I would like to thank from the bottom of my heart to everybody present here for taking such a wonderful initiative. So now coming to the topic of discussion, as we have already heard from Sanjeev Bhaiya and Nishtha Didi, we have already got an idea about the subject which we are going to discuss today, that is the aim of life. This topic might seem to be a very simple one, but if we go a little deeper and try to analyze the real aim, what are we here for? What is the purpose of our existence? Then gradually we'll see beautiful things unveiling in front of us. So let us start. As Nishtha Didi already started, an aimless life is a miserable life. This is a beautiful quote by the mother. And it is very true. So now that we know that having an aim is a must, it is something inevitable, it is mandatory in everyone's life. So what is the aim exactly? If we try to think a little deeper, why are we here for? What is the purpose of our being here in this Zoom online application today? Why have we joined this course? Because something in us has wanted to know that what is going to happen. We have some kind of curiosity about knowing is something good we are going to gain today. So then again, when we think about aim, the first thing that comes to our mind is a specific goal that we have to achieve, something big. The highest, we might think the highest that is as per my reach. But whatever we do, how much ever we get, how much ever we try to achieve, what is the real purpose behind it? What do we actually want? Today, we are all professionally engaged. We are good in our own field of work. We are doing something out of passion, something out of our occupation. We are doing, all of us are engaged in some kind of work. But end of the day, what are we doing all this for? What do we really want? Can we think a little bit? If we try to analyze ourselves, at the end of the day, what is it that we really want? It is happiness. It is happiness that we are seeking for. Behind everything we do, behind all the hard work that we undertake, be it in individual level or in professional level or in a mass level, whatever we are doing, our end result should be happiness. That is what we are seeking. But if again we give a deeper thought, the things that we are doing now, are they really making us happy? If we analyze ourselves, half of the things don't. Many things are there. There are many activities we undertake out of compulsion, not out of our passion, not out of our interest, not out of the love for the things that we do. Because somewhere we feel a pressure to do it. Somewhere there may be the want for money, for the want of satisfaction, for the want of power. Although we want to be happy, we seek happiness, but end of the day, whatever we are doing, it somewhere or the other, that is the thing which lacks. That is, we are not being able to feel happy, we are not being able to be satisfied. Because whatever we do, we expect something in return. So, and again, we fail to get what we really want. So, Mother says, as Nishtha Didi has already said, that our aim should be high and wide. What does it really mean? We must aim to the highest. Like, we should never stop. Like, whatever be our goal, it should be vast. Until and unless we have reached our goal, until and unless we have achieved that ultimate truth for which we are here for, we should not be satisfied. We must keep on seeking for it. As we can see, if we go back to few decades back, we can see, if you remember our freedom fighters, what did they have in their mind? The only thing that was their freedom of my motherland. And whatever came across, whatever hurdles they had to undergo, they were facing it with a smile on their face. Not only on their face, they were internally happy, because they were doing for the cause of their motherland. They were sacrificing their life with a beautiful smile on their face. That is the wideness that we must have in our goal. So nowadays, if we see, the vast perception is missing in us. But if we analyze ourselves again, it is not only individually, but also in the mass level, the whole humanity. If we consider the whole humanity, we can see that this vast perception is missing. Today, we can see man has reached the moon. He has explored everything. He has achieved a lot in his life, but still he is not happy. Why? Where does the happiness lie then? If we can see in the picture, where does the satisfaction of a bird lie? Is it in a beautiful cage or in the open sky? Where does a fish feel happy at the most? Is it in a beautifully decorated aquarium or in the deep blue ocean where it is left free to dive and roam around? Similarly, man has his happiness somewhere else. He looks for freedom. And until and unless man has reached its origin where his real happiness lies, he won't be satisfied. He is not happy. That's because man is a being who always aims at perfection. That is the difference between animal and man we can see now. Animal, if we see, even they eat, they sleep, they reproduce. Same happens with human beings also. But what the great difference is that animal is satisfied with where he was 20 years back, and even today he is at the same place, but still it is satisfied. But man is not satisfied with what he has achieved. If we go back 30 years back, we had not imagined of an Android phone. We had not imagined that it would be possible to talk to talk to each other miles and miles away. That too, see, looking at the faces. But still, man has strived to achieve whatever he has wanted. But how much ever he achieved, somewhere he feels an imperfection, somewhere he feels an unfulfillment. Because mother says that man is a being who strives for perfection. And till the time he has not achieved that perfection, till the time he has not reached that goal, he won't be satisfied. As we are discussing right now, man has reached the moon. Man has excelled in science and technology with newer and better invention almost every passing day. But still, he is not satisfied. He is not contented. As mother says, we can see a quote, "For always we strive not to win, but to play the best we can and open thus the way to a new progress." We are not aiming at success. Our aim is perfection. Now, here I would like to throw light on the word success for a few minutes. The success that we perceive as, we can see now that it does not give us satisfaction. Rather, it is a barrier. In general, the success that we perceive, it acts as a barrier in reaching our real aim. How? We'll come to know in our further slides. So now the time has come where man feels lost somewhere. Even the shackles of morality is going to break. And somewhere he feels that what he's going to do, he's not clear about his aim. And finally, what has come now? Conflict, war, fear, and all sorts of negativities are just hounding him like anything. So whatever he really wants, is not able to achieve it. For example, we can say the man, what he wants from the most profound depths of his being is happiness. It has been centuries and centuries that man has seek for happiness, but does he really get happiness forever? Does he have eternal happiness? If you remember the first slide that I had shown, the picture of a baby, along with happiness, I had written delight, because delight is something which is permanent. So it is delight that man wants, but he still gets suffering. Happiness is always accompanied with unhappiness or suffering. That is said, pleasure and pain. As Sri Aurobindo says, that pleasure and pain are eternal partners. They are married together. They always quarrel, but they never divorce. And that's what we must be experiencing. Yes, life is a matter of pleasure and pain, and we have to accept it as it is. But no, somewhere in the most profound depth of our being, we are not satisfied. We are not ready to accept pain and suffering, because man wants eternal happiness. We want good health, but we have accepted it that yes, in this lifetime, anyhow, we have to undergo some diseases or illness. We want eternal youth. We want to be young forever. But again, we have accepted the fact that this is not possible. Old age has to be accompanied with youth. Then finally, nobody wants to die. But still date, this has been a fact, like the iron law, that if man has come to this world, he has to leave it someday or the other. So immortality is always accompanied, is followed by death. So then, where does the solution lie? Now coming to the solution part, man, till now what man has achieved, there is no permanent solution to what he has got till now, because he is not clear about his aim. I'll tell you one story. Once there were two laborers, and one of them was digging the soil in a field, digging the soil, and the other one was filling the pit again with the soil. Similarly, they had already dug around 50 pits in the similar manner. The first person was digging the hole, the second was one filling up the hole. Just at that time, one passerby went on, and he had been observing these two persons for quite a long time. Then finally, out of curiosity, he asked them, "Young men, can you please tell me what are you doing here? Because I don't see any point in what you actually do." Then the first person said that, "Yes, sir, we have been actually, three persons were there. We were assigned a task of planting a tree. First person, I was supposed to dig the hole. The second person, who is absent right now, he was supposed to plant the tree. And the third person was to fill back the soil again. Since the second one is absent, so but both of us are being sincere in our duty, we are continuing with our job without any obstruction. So let us continue." So can we see what is the point in that? They were doing something, they were working really hard, but without any purpose. The same thing has happened to mankind today. We are working, we are spending day and night to get some satisfaction, to get peace of mind. We are doing everything we can, but we are not getting it because we have forgotten our aim. We have been disconnected from the real source of happiness. And that is what is the cause of suffering, pain, and whatever we don't want today. As Sri Aurobindo says, the whole world yearns after freedom. If we can say really, every man wants to be free, but he is not able to be free. Why? Because he loves his chain. What are our chains? The material things that we are running after today. We are running after money. We are running after power. If today one of my students gets scored really well and he writes a template on me, what kind of appreciation will I get? I will be on the top of the world. But at the same time, if I get some comments or some negative feedback from my students or the authority, what will I end up with? Definitely some kind of depression, some kind of frustration will definitely creep in, which will again let me think that I have lost everything, or I'm not happy, which will again let me feel that I am neglected, or I'm not worth of being where I am. So these are the chains, a lot of expectations from the material world. And this is what, as Sri Aurobindo says, these are the inextricable knots of nature for which we are not able to get what we really want. We are not able to get the freedom which we yearn for. So now here we can come to the point. If the place where we are right now, if that is giving us it is satisfaction, if that is not able to give us what we really want, then what is the next step that we must take? We must take a step out. Suppose we are in a dark room where there is no light, where there is no spark of sunlight also anywhere. What do we see there? We have kept all the rooms and doors, windows and doors closed, and we say that there is no sunlight, there is no air in it. But does that really mean that the sun did not rise? Immediately the next step, if we step out of the house and we see, what do we see? The sun is shining so bright. There is such a beautiful morning. So this is what the time has come now. So the moment we step out, the moment we take a step further towards the world to know what really lies outside, That is when we can get the true meaning, get to know the true meaning of our life. That is when we can know that yes, we have something higher, much brighter to achieve. So now, coming to like what exactly? Now coming for the we can come to the point. Like now, the thing which we are saying about aim, is it really our aim? Till now, what we had thought, yes, I want to be an accomplished doctor, I want to be an engineer, I want to be a good teacher, or I want to have a business of my own. But are these our aim? No, because aim is something which is permanent. It is subject to change. So, and what the things that we are thinking now, as I mentioned right now, be it doctor or engineer or teacher, they are our preoccupations, our engagements, or so we can say our ambition. And ambition is something which is not permanent. If today I aim for something, if I really become a doctor tomorrow, then my next ambition will be to be a successful doctor. Then my next dream will be to be to be a successful homemaker. Or the things will continue because there is no stop in it. But aim is something which is permanent, the highest truth that we have to achieve. Aim is something where we are changed. The destination is not changed, where we are changed. That is the aim. So, and so here Sri Aurobindo and till now we have been thinking that yes, there are only two ways in which we can be happy. In ordinary sense of mind, we have been thinking that yes, we can, as we have got this life, we have to succeed. As we were talking now, we were discussing, we'll achieve something, whatever we achieve materially to the highest level, that will give us maximum happiness. Until the time we are alive, we need to achieve as much as we can. Then who knows, someday we may die and we may leave the world. This has been the mindset of most of us till now. But there are another set of people who think that no, there is nothing kept in this world. It is a world of illusion. It is something which is deviating us from our real goal, which is to achieve the divine. To go to heaven is our real goal. So let us all let us renounce this world and go in search of peace, light, and God. And what they do, they just quit this world, this material world, and somewhere we can see, like in the forest or mountains, we can see the people practicing asceticism. But again, if we ponder upon, are they really free? Are they really free from from everything? Oh, the thing that which they had in this material world, they might leave it and go to the forest. But whatever they're carrying within, it is still accompanying them. I still have that anger within me. I still have that greed within me. They are all bound with me. So how can I be free? Again, I am not getting what I really wanted. So here Sri Aurobindo says, like we have a very beautiful proverb in Hindi, na bhagna hai, na bhogna hai. Like the need of the hour is, like na bhagna hai, na bhogna hai, jahan rehna hai, wahin jagna hai. That means now the time has come where we cannot renounce the world, neither do we have the option to celebrate till the time we can and leave the world as we have come for. But there is a third way, that is to be in the world and to enlighten, to manifest the divine here itself, in this very world itself. Divine has to be manifested. And here Sri Aurobindo says that every human being is potentially divine. That is the aim that we have to achieve. That is the thing that we are striving for. The divinity within us has to manifest in every part of our being. As Mother says, the divine is within ourselves in seed form, and that is what has to manifest completely in every portion of our being. So, as in the process of evolution, if you go a little back to history, what was man's history? What was man's past? We all have come to know that man has evolved from ape to human being, from ape to early man, from early man to modern man. So, since the process of evolution, man has been evolving and evolving. So, Sri Aurobindo says, even now, man is not the supreme creature. There is still something awaiting. And what is that? As we can see, the life cycle of a butterfly. What was the butterfly before? It was an ugly caterpillar, if you look at it. So, what was the aim of the caterpillar? Was it to become a much healthier caterpillar, or to transform into a butterfly? Similarly, is man's aim in the process of evolution. Man is not destined to be a much wealthier, healthier man. Rather, man is now, Sri Aurobindo says, now man, the time has come, what man had actually aspired for, as we were seeing in the previous slides, man was aspiring for eternal youth, for eternal health, for immortality, for happiness, for eternal happiness, that is delight. So Sri Aurobindo says, if man has aspired for this, he has got the right to have them. And for that, we are born. For that, we have been chosen to be a terrestrial creature. That is the biggest gift of God, of the divine to us. So as Sri Aurobindo says, we can see in the slide, now from ape to human being, we have emerged, we have evolved in this process. But now the question is, what next? Here Sri Aurobindo says that man is now destined to be a much higher man, which is called, like we can say, he has termed it as Superman. But now, since we have a limited perception, it is difficult to imagine that how that would look like. So the more we aim towards perfection, the more we come to know that there is a much higher aim that is before us, that is lying before us. There is a much vaster thing to achieve. Then slowly and gradually we'll come out of the shackles of our ego, of our selfishness, and gradually we will proceed towards the permanent truth, the permanent happiness. And when we come to know that there is something much higher lying before us, before me, then will these little things matter to me at all? Will I be frustrated with the small failures, the so-called failures that I feel in my life? Will they affect me anymore? No. If we give a little effort, if we give a small try to this, we can see that yes, there is a much higher goal lying before us, and in front of that goal, these things are nothing. They are just a stepping stone for me to take a leap towards that higher goal. But before we reach there, the thing that is little obstructing right now is we are getting a little deviated. Like once what happened, there was a dog race. All the owners of the dog were awaiting to see if the dog has been well fed, the dog has been well trained. So they were all so excited to see the result. The competition started. All the dogs were so well groomed and they excelled in the performance. But before any of them could reach the finishing line, one cat just crossed the track. Imagine what would have been the plight of the dog. Now, instead of moving towards the finishing line, they all started running after the cat. A similar such thing has happened to us. Before coming to this earth, before coming to this terrestrial world, we had given a promise to the divine that what are we here for? I'm going to accomplish. I have come here to manifest the divine on earth. But certain distractions, certain material illusions have deviated us from the path. And that is what these sessions are required for, to make us aware that where our real aim lies. So, since we are limited in our perception now, we cannot imagine that what lies in that vastness. But still, if we have faith and proceed with full confidence in the divine, then gradually the doors will start opening. So now the time has come, as Mother says, a decisive choice has to be made. At every moment, one has to decide whether one wants to remain part of the humanity of yesterday or to belong to the superhumanity of tomorrow. So even Mother says that even if we are in a group of so many people, even if we are the one single person, if I am the single person who knows where the truth lies, who knows what my higher aim is, then Mother says there is no harm in going for it, even if you are alone. Like if you can see the picture on the slide, it shows that it shows the pictures of mouses, and there are parents mouse are there, and there are children. The kids all are hanging downwards. There is only one kid who is aspiring above, and the parents they condemn, saying that alas, we have got a defective child. This is all our perception. Till now we have been thinking that if we do not achieve something in life, if we do not get a good job, if we do not get money, if we do not get this, that, then that is going to make us happy. This is just our perception, but the reality lies somewhere else. So even if nobody recognizes us, there is no harm in going towards the ultimate truth, which is the ultimate aim of our life. Now coming to the summing up of the points, I'll just sum up the points and conclude the session. So first, what are those, as we came to know about the problem, and what is it that is going to make us reach to the solution? First thing, we must be very sure that nothing is permanent. Whatever we are doing in life, whatever we are trying to achieve, we are seeking for pleasure, which is always accompanied by pain. So once man realizes this, he would start his journey from inward. That is what is most important. Till now, we have been starting from outward, and we have been going more and more outer. But here Mother says that once we start the journey from within, which is where the divinity lies in the seed form, and from there our journey should begin. From there it should emerge into a beautiful outward circumstance. So if we again, I'll give you an example. Like if we ask a parent, if we ask a father, what is your bank balance? He would say, yes, some 75 lakhs or something in the bank. If you ask a mother, she'll say 25 lakhs. If you ask a child, what is your bank balance? What would be his reply? 0. But who is more happy? Who is much happier than both? Among all the three, who should be the most happiest? It's undoubtedly the child. Then can we say that money will bring us happiness? No. The child is happy because he's completely free. He's dependent on his parents. Similarly, if we also entrust our life to a higher power, to the one who knows what is better for us, what is the best for us, it is only then that we can be really happy. If we entrust our responsibility to the divine, he is the one who will carry us through along to the life. Then the next comes what is the secret of true happiness? It is freedom. It is not by getting bound where we are. If today I have achieved something, then it is not the ultimate that I have got. Even in as we say, man is a perpetual learning machine. The more we know that we do not know. Every time we need to strive for something. No, this is not the end. This is not the end. And whatever I have achieved, I have to just let them go, and I have to take a leap towards a newer world, towards the future. So, as Mother says, freedom is the secret of happiness. The more we are bound, the more we suffer. Then next, as we were discussing, uh, as Nirupama Didi said, that aim should be generous and disinterested. It should be high and wide, generous and disinterested. That means now the time has come where we should not be limited about thinking of ourselves as individual, or not only about our family, or not only about the society or country. Even if we think about, if we love our country, if we say that whatever I do, I'm doing for my country, even that is a limitation now. So what is the aim for this era? Aim is to live only for the divine, which is the totality. In divine, there comprises the totality. So like earlier, the rishis and saints used to chant Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, Sarve Bhavantu Niramaya. That means let the whole world be in peace, let the whole world be in happiness, let the whole world be disease free. And when we are praying for the whole world, we are also coming in that. We are also part of that. But that is the essence that we have forgotten. Right now we are praying only for ourselves. We think that first let me pray for myself, then I'll think of the whole world. But we forget that if we pray for the whole world, we are also included in that. So that is what we should aim at. We must work for the totality. And how should we work? The more we try to take the initiative to at least to let everybody know the real aim. Like if today we came to know here, we all of those who are present here, we can pass on this message to a few people of our acquaintances. So this is, and we should not expect the result, whatever be the result. At least it is our responsibility to spread the message, to let the world know that yes, what is the higher purpose that we are surviving for. And once this process is speeding up, then Mother says that the process of transformation will also rapidify. Then finally, the last thing that I would like to conclude with, that outer things, whatever is the outer things, it should be an expression of the inner divinity, as we are discussing now. So for example, if you have a nicely decorated car with a beautiful metallic color, with all its parts right in place, but if you see the engine missing, then what is the point of having that car? Similarly, if man has to be equipped everywhere, in every terms we have to be equipped, but if we miss to find out the divinity within, if we miss to discover the source from which we have come from, if that does not take the lead in our life, then it is really purposeless. Even if we have a beautiful built up body, mind and vital, there is no use of it if we are not directed by the divine within us. And before we conclude, I would like to say that Sri Aurobindo has said, India has been a blessed land, and we have been blessed to be born as Indians, because it is India who is going to take the lead, and it is in India that is going to be the guru of the whole world. But now the things might seem to be in a topsy-turvy, but still it is just a transition period where we are still awaiting to see a beautiful world, a beautiful and well-constructed, luminous future ahead. Thank you.